Hi, my name is Dale Smith. I'm going to continue with more classes. Last class we talked about the 7 years of tribulation. This is one part of that class. It's called the Battle of Armageddon. Very important. This battle will be the final battle before the Lord returns, and this will involve most of the world. And it's found in the 11th chapter of Daniel, verse 40 to 45, and we'll go a little bit more than that. But anyhow, I want to share this with you. Now, this is Ezekiel chapter 30, verse 3. It says, "For the day is near, even the day of the Lord is near, a cloudy day. It shall be a time of the heathen." Okay? And then, "At the end thereof shall be with a flood, and unto the end of the war desolations are determined. And at the time there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, every one found written in the book of life, being baptized." That's Daniel chapter 12, verse 1, and we'll get in that in just a minute. "For then in those days shall be great tribulation among the Jews, and upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem, such as was not before sent upon Israel, O God, since the beginning of their kingdom until this time, no, nor ever shall be sent again upon Israel." That's in Matthew chapter 24, verse 18. Now, this is really important. There are three kingdoms spoken of here. If you read this scripture, it talks about the king of the south, the king of the north, and the king of the east. If you read this scripture during World War II, the king of the south would be down in this section, the king of the north would have been Germany, and the king of the east would have been Japan. Now, we're in our day, just before the 7 years, or if the 7 years could have started in this pandemic, this COVID-19, whatever. If this continues and the world still gets continued in a bad degree, we may be starting the 7 years. I don't know for sure. I'm waiting and seeing to see what has to be fulfilled. So, let me read this just ahead of time. This is in Daniel chapter 2, verse 44 and 45. "And in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom, which shall never be destroyed. And the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. As thou sawest that a stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it brake in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold." And those are all found in the Gentile nation. "The great God made known what shall come to pass hereafter." Daniel chapter 2, verse 44, 45. Okay, let me read this. We're going to begin with Daniel chapter 11, verse 40. "And at that time, start over. "And at the time of the end shall the king of the south push at him, and the king of the north shall come against him, like a whirlwind, with chariots and with horsemen and with many ships. And he shall enter also into the countries, and shall overflow and pass over. He shall enter also into the glorious land, and many countries shall be overthrown. But these shall escape out of his hand, even Edom, Moab, and the chief children of Ammon." Now, the reason why, let me explain who. The king of the south is Iran. That's today. They're the enemies of God's people, king of the south. Then the same verse talks about the king of the north, Russia, another communist country. It shall come against them. Will come against the tidings out of the north. This is Russian. Now we're talking about this coming in the very near future. This is not very far off. And then so in verse 41, and shall enter also in the glorious land. That's Palestine. Many countries around there overthrown. Now, Edom, Moab, and the chief children of Ammon weren't, because they are, they're allies with Germany. Let's see, where is he? Anyhow, where the water is, I forget. Let's see. Where's Jerusalem? Anyhow, Jerusalem, there's the Dead Sea. On the other side of the Dead Sea is where Edom, Moab, and the chief children of Ammon, they're on the other side. And Jerusalem's about 17 miles from the Dead Sea. They're on the west side, and then the others are on the east side. Okay, let me read on. 42. And he shall stretch forth his hand also upon the countries of the land of Egypt, shall not escape. Countries in the land of Egypt shall not escape. Verse 43, but he shall have power over the treasures of gold and silver, and over all the precious things of Egypt. And the Libyans and the Ethiopians shall be at his steps. Now Libya, here's Egypt, Libya, and Ethiopia is down here in the southern part. Now, the reason why Russia wants to control this, they can control the canal here, and Egypt's right up here. They can control vessels of oil coming through here, any enemies of Russia. So Libya and all that, he wants to control this up here during that time. Because Ethiopia and Libyans will be at his steps. Verse 44, but tidings out of the east. We talked about north and south. But tidings out of the east and out of the north. So that's who's the east? China. China is the king of the east. And the north is Russia, shall trouble him. Now, east and north are going to get together. Russia and China are going to get together. That's what it says. And they are both communist countries. They're allies to each other. But tidings out of the east and out of the north shall trouble him, trouble Jerusalem, and probably trouble us. Therefore he shall go forth with great fury to destroy the north and the east, to destroy and utterly to make away many. Verse 45, the last verse. And he shall plant the tabernacles of his palace between the seas in the glorious holy mountain. Yet he shall come to his end, and none shall help him. Now, plant his tabernacles. That would be his, whatever, maybe his churches, his palace. Between the seas, between the north and the South America, in the glorious holy mountain, that's America. Yet he shall come to his end, and none shall help him. So God is going to protect his people when they're coming here. The very next verse, in chapter 12, verse 1 through 4 of Daniel, is very important because it talks about the future. Because it says, and at that time shall Michael stand up. Now that's going to be near the end of the 7 years. Michael, the archangel, shall stand up, the great prince that standeth for the children of thy people, and there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered. So there's a time coming during the troubled time that when Michael stands up, he's going to protect his people, God's people. Every one that shall be found written in the book of life. And baptism is very important to be part of that. And many, verse 2, and many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake. This is the resurrection. Now, After the Battle of Armageddon we talked about with Russia and China and Iran is going to take place when Jesus returns, and many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake. They'll be resurrected. Some to everlasting life, some to shame and everlasting contempt. And they that be wise, like the wise virgins we talked about, shall shine as the brightness of the firmament. And they that turn many to righteousness as the stars. The apostles are the stars in chapter 12 of Revelation. But thou, Daniel, shut up the words, seal the book, even to the time of the end. This could not come forth until the time of the end to understand what I am teaching you here. Because if we did it in World War II, they'd be different countries. So this is the time of the end, and that's our period of time now. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall increase. Has our knowledge increased in the last 50 years, 20 years? Look at our knowledge today of inventions and all the different stuff. So that's another time of the time. The signs of the times is having knowledge increase. And people can run to and fro. They can drive in cars. They can fly all over the world. So this is the time period now that we're in, this time of knowledge, that this will take place in the near future. I believe the Battle of Armageddon will take place near the end of the 7 years. And with the pandemic, the COVID-13, with this, whatever is coming out that's here now, if this continues and things in the world continue, because this is a world event, the whole world is being troubled by this, even our nation, the 7 years could start this year. That's my own personal opinion, but I'm looking in the next year to see if troubles continue. If the troubles end, then we'll see. But it's not very far off before these 7 years will take place. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.